Okay, welcome to the Journey Through the Eyes, the EMDR podcast with the EMDR community. I'm Kathy Couch, owner of Rewired 360. We're a curriculum-based university-like setting for private practice owners and programs. So today we have our guests today, Kathy Hanville and Christine McInnes. We are so excited to be able to help them join us today on our podcast. We actually were at the EMDRIA conference together. And so I had a table. They were as a presenter, and Christine also, and Kathy wrote a book. So exciting to talk about those tools, scripts, and resources. And also make sure you sign up for our Rewired 360 free library and community so that you can have access to all of the details they're going to spill today. So we're just going to start. I'd like you guys just to kind of introduce yourselves and kind of talk a little bit about yourself, your practice, where people can find you. And then we will go into our topic today of neurodiversity affirming EMDR.
Yay. Do you want to go first, Kathy?
Sure. So my name is Kathy Hanville. I use both they and she pronouns. I am currently living in Pennsylvania, but I'm licensed in Pennsylvania and California, where I had lived prior to coming back east. I've been in private practice for more years than I want to admit, over 20. And I am an EMDR, I'm certified, I'm an approved consultant. I am also an approved CE provider. I've done some classes on doing parts work and EMDR together to address attachment trauma. Christine and I were both recently in the winter Go With That magazine that focused on neurodiversity on different topics. Mine was on the intersection of gender diversity and neurodivergence, which was also a presentation I did at the conference. And then I'm also doing that again with NeuroPebble October 20th live, and then it will be available on demand. And you can reach me through my website, which is kathyhanville.com. And I am Kathy with a C versus Kathy with a K over there.
Kathy with the K,
Christine.
Kathy on the couch, therapist
got a lot of C's. Okay.
Good. So happy to have you. So happy to hear about all your wonderful things. So we have a great topic today. So thank you. Christine?
Hi, I'm Christine McInnes, and I'm from Torrance, California. Kathy and I have worked together. She was actually my person who trained me in all things. I became a consultant under her. I became certified originally under her. So that forged this like incredible friendship where we trained each other on so many different topics that we were both really passionate and knowledgeable about. And we call it geeking out because we would geek out on our topics, which we will do with you all today. My practice is in Torrance, California. I do physical in-person still. I know, very old school over here. And I actually do paper notes too. I'm very, very old school. So I do online as well, but I'm also licensed in Arizona and Ohio. So I do see clients, especially Arizona. I see clients that go to college and then come back. Like Kathy said, we were in the winter edition of Go With That magazine. I wrote on PDA. I am a specialist in pathological demand avoidance. It is also one of my own personal profiles. I'm also autistic and ADHD. So using all of my own needs in EMDR is what led me to neurodiversity affirming EMDR, because I found EMDR didn't work for me. I thought there was something wrong with me. I thought there was something like broken. I also had a TBI in 2016. I had a brain aneurysm. So I thought it was my brain just didn't work that way. It didn't operate in a way that EMDR was successful. So in my basic training with Paula Racucci out of EMDR Chicago, I'm giving her
that's who you were training. Okay.
Amazing. She's one of the best trainers in the business. I definitely take her stuff on Polyvagal. Go see all her free stuff. I'm giving her a plug because she's so good.
She does. I just found a lot of her free stuff.
That's so much free stuff.
So good. Yeah, that's so good.
So good. But I went to her at my basic and I said, I quit. I was like, this doesn't work for my brain. I think this is made up. I think this is woo-woo. And she's like, no, hang in. I'm going to send you over to Eric Brummel. Another shout out, because he taught me some amazing skills too in my basic. And Eric Brummel was like, no, you just have a differing brain. And I was like, I do, but I guess EMDR doesn't work with that. He goes, nah, you're fine. And he taught me some of the methods that I now train on. as an EMDR distance learning trainer. So I do EMDR trainings on EMDR, neurodiversity affirming process. And so, it's been a long journey with that, because originally, and we'll dive into this in a little bit, but that's really has become my passion. And then Kathy and I were tapped into by Norton earlier this year to start writing a book on the topic and including parts work, because we use both modalities together. And that was Kathy's, passion that she trained me on. And when they taught me that, I was like, okay, here we go. I'm off and running.
That's so amazing. Go
so
ahead,
amazing.
Kath.
Yeah, so hopefully 2027, early 2027. So we are frantically hyper focusing on it. And I just wanted to name two things because Christina brought in the lived identity, and I feel like that's so important. So I identify as gender diverse, and I am late diagnosed, as in like 2 years ago, ADHD.
Yeah.
So
That's so important. I was late diagnosed, kind of diagnosed ADHD. They have a computer program that I went to, and they could kind of look at your brain and see kind of where you were at. And so that's kind of how one of my medical providers had that. And so it's super important. And also, struggling with a child with it, and she didn't want to take medication, and all the things. And she's 8. And so just having that conversation with her teacher, is just so important. So I think this is a really passionate conversation. I'm so excited. And I will just kind of let you guys take the lead with where you would like to start. Maybe just defining it for our audience, and maybe Kathy just describing for a little bit for yourself about how you got into it, and what are some of your passions, and then key points.
Okay. Do you want to define it, Christine? You want to start with
Sure, because I feel like it's so funny. I feel like there's a collective of us that kind of made this up as we've been going along. Like, I want to mention Susan Darker, who is out of the UK, who's done amazing work with this with children. And so there's a lot of people in the collective who have been doing this work. It's not just, me and Kathy, like, oh yeah, we decided on this thing. When I gave my first training in 2022, it was out of like fear, because I was like, okay, here I go to basic and I'm like, this doesn't work. Then I was with my own therapist and I was like, oh no, you have to do this. Oh wait, you have to do this. Oh wait, you have to do this. And she was like, you need to package this in a training, because again, I wouldn't know. And you're like kind of teaching me, which is really wrong. You're not supposed to be teaching your therapist. She's like, but I'm grateful because you're really helping me like make this easier. And so even back then, everything I could find on the topic was really ableist, like including caregivers. I'm not going to include my mom in my therapy. I don't need to. I'm not, I don't have a profound high level of need. And yes, there are autistic people who do, but it is a spectrum of behavior. There are people who have profound needs, and theirs is a very different story, and they might need more of a medical model. But for those of us who are at a level where the needs are lower, we don't need that much intervention, but we do need some. And we don't just get to, they call it like the iceberg, like on the top, we look like we're normally functioning, but on the bottom, we are needing accommodation. We are needing understanding for how our neurotype works. And we mask so well, especially female identifying people. We're trained from birth to smile. You'll look prettier. And, I mean, all the absolute baloney that, female identified people go into this whole masking. And so I'm going into many different divergent angles, like I do with my ADHD all the time. But it's basically that. It is like really affirming the understanding of each person's differences in their neurological, and it's not even just autism and ADHD, which are my diagnoses with the PDA profile. There's also people with DID, understanding that that's not something that is considered abnormal or pathological. It actually is really adaptive. For people who have DID, they survived. For some of them, have survived some pretty horrific complex trauma. So why wouldn't you disassociate from that, especially if you live in it every day?
Yeah.
That's adaptive, that's healthy, that's good. And yet we've made it into this huge pathology. And so affirming work is really just that: understanding the differences, accepting the differences, recognizing that needs need to be accommodated. So if there's profound needs, yeah, someone who's non-speaking, Great. Get assisted technology in there. We have tons right now. Get them devices where they can communicate in the way they know how to communicate. Instead of telling them, oh, no, 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 you're going to communicate the way we do. You're going to speak. That might not be appropriate. And yet we make it pathological. You know, so
That's
it's
a great explanation. I love the pathology component, right? I think that's just so important to understand
Yeah.
and hear and to
yeah,
work with.
Kathy wanted to add in because I tend to
Yeah, I see that. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
Wait, yeah, when you have the two of us, we both have, the ADHD and can info dump a little. So, and I think we both have good information. So not to say, yeah, I mean, I guess there's a few points I want to make to add on to what Christine said. Is like, yes, we really use Nick Walker's paradigm of the neurodiversity paradigm rather than the way that this has been pathologized in a very medical model. We are not of the belief that people that are neurodivergent, there is something wrong with them. They are different. Our brains work differently. So it's a matter of looking for that and accommodating that. And, Christine was talking a little bit more about kind of higher needs and, higher support needs and stuff. But my particular passion right now, and it's because of my lived experience, as an AFAB person who was like, I don't have ADHD. I am the most organized person I know. And then my brother got diagnosed and I was like, well, of course he has it because he's like all the time. And then I was with a lot of therapists consulting Christine and other people that were ADHD. And I started to be like, but it's a very typical time for people assigned female at birth to be diagnosed in perimenopause because people like me who think we're super organized or masking as super organized, things start to fall through as the hormonal shifts happen. And I also think it's a time of life thing. So I'm also, partially caregiving for my mother-in-law and caregiving for my mom and all of those stresses and managing all of that with the hormone changes and high masking is when I started to really sort of, fall apart a little, I felt like. And, I think that we don't typically look at people with ADHD as very accomplished,
right.
looking all together assigned female at birth. Like, I think, there's this whole stereotype about people with ADHD are lazy or underachievers or all of that. And I think a lot of people are very high achievers because, with the ADHD, as Christine could say, we're like, hey, let's write a book. Let's do this. Let's do that. We do a lot. So, that's sort of a particular passion. And then I'm going to kind of segue into here that my presentation at the Andrea conference was on the intersection of gender diversity and neurodivergence because I work a lot with transgender diverse clients. That's been one of my specialties for a long time. And over the years, I was just seeing more and more clients. And I didn't recognize it at first. And it's one of those things I feel like not great about as a therapist, not knowing what I know now back then, but seeing like my trans clients are autistic, a lot of them. The ARFID showed up, which is I forget the restrictive eating disorder. I forget what the A stands for, and other things that I was missing. So then I started to do like a deeper dive, but there's a lot of intersections. And here we are also in 2025, where we're looking at trans people are, at least in the top 5 of like persecuted people in this nation right now. And then we're also hearing autism is caused by, Tylenol.
Oh my gosh, yes, I know.
and stuff. And so there's a lot of intersections there about the masking that needs to happen or desires to happen. The medical trauma that both groups have, and all of that. So, and again, I could go on, but I want to be sharing respectfully with Christine.
I can relate to you because, really just kind of, I think what you're saying in regards to the stereotype with my own ADHD symptoms, it's like we are high producers. We do have really great ideas. And also just, I think, I've had patients come in and say, I think I'm bipolar. And when we dissect that, it's like, it's not mania, it's ADHD. We just have a very quick brain. What I've noticed in my own personal processing with people patients with ADHD, I tell them that you have a very quick processor. And so usually that material sometimes goes through very quickly with them, and they can process it through very quickly. And so that is important. I also had a patient that works in computer science, and he said the likelihood of somebody being autistic, trans, computer programmer is very high. There's a lot in our field, and so really, if you did the IQ testing, so intelligent, right? And so I think that the IQ part has they're kind of also intelligently smart, and so that sets them apart in different ways too. So just a lot of misnomers and things like that that kind of feed into this process. I am curious, could you describe for us that Nick Walker paradigm that you referred to, for our listeners?
Yes.
Break it
Uh,
out.
da, da, da.
So good.
This is her book, and
Nick is
she just really, the essential, okay, here it is right here. Diversity among the minds is a natural, healthy, and valuable form of human diversity. So, and I'm literally reading this from the book, just so people know. And there's no normal or right style of human mind any more than there's any one normal or right ethnicity, gender, or culture. And that the social dynamics that manifest in regards to neurodiversity are similar to the social dynamics that manifest in regards to other forms of human diversity, diversity of race, culture, gender, sexual orientation. And they include the dynamics of social power relations, of social inequality, privilege, and oppression, as well as the dynamics by which diversity, when embraced, acts as a source of creative potential within a group or society. I think, actually with both gender diversity and neurodiversity, like it's been pathologized for so long, and both have histories of conversion therapies, right? Straight up conversion therapy for gender and sexual orientation, and then ABA being used in very coercive ways for autistic children. So, and all of those goals were to change the person and make them fit the mold. And what we're saying is, you're fine the way you are. We want to help you work in a world that is telling you constantly that you're not fine.
And to add on to that, because I do want to differentiate too, a lot of what we're going to talk about today are people that are seen. And again, you're going to hear these terms being used differently. So I want to define terms a little bit. What was normally said in the past was higher functioning, which is the most, really, when you think about it, the most obnoxious term. Because am I higher functioning than Kathy? Or is Kathy higher functioning than me? Kathy Couch higher functioning than two of us? Like, you want to start playing that game? That's ridiculous, right? There's no way to actually surmise or even come up with that protocol for who is. And so I do want to differentiate that we are talking about people with, medium to lower need based issues. So there is that differentiation between higher functioning and lower functioning. And now we refer to it more as need based, which is much more simple to understand. Because how do you define higher functioning? You kind of don't. Because what are you basing it on? Really capitalist principles. Masking, but also capitalist principles. And you mask to get those principles. Mm-hmm. So your productivity, how successful you are, how much money you make. Woohoo. Okay.
Yeah.
Is that really what success is? No, we know that, really intrinsically know that deep down inside. That's not, but that's what it's measured by. So when you're talking about, I do want to differentiate what we're really working on is medium to low need and how that affects them, because you don't see it. You can identify somebody who's based in your understanding of what we were taught autism to be. Whereas someone like me, I get told all the time, oh, you're not autistic. And they laugh like I'm making it up.
Right.
And like, just because I'm an incredible masker, I'm a great actress. I am an incredible actress. I always have been. And I'm really good at faking it. I'm really good at pretending. And I'm really good at making up a whole alternate universe where I am successful and I've got it together, when I am a mess, where I have huge sensory issues, where now my family will know if we walk in a crowded restaurant, they walk right out. They don't even waste their time sitting down, because they know within 10 minutes I'm going to be melting down and in the bathroom crying because I can't handle it. And so it is these things that are so different and different to differentiate. But I also don't want to ignore those who have children with, say, profound need and who really do need medical intervention, who do need supports that are much higher level than what we're really going to be talking about today, because that's a different dynamic. So I'm not excluding them from that paradigm, but I also don't want to kind of dumb it down to this point where we're like, oh yeah, everybody's great, because that's not the case. It's not saying everybody's great. It's saying that we have to accommodate for, that we have to start noticing the problem, that capitalism and how we've structured society is the problem, that they're not seen as lesser human beings because their productivity is lesser.
Right.
I know a friend whose daughter is severely disabled from a birth injury, but she is incredibly productive. She's planning her high school reunion right now for her whole class, yet she cannot use her arms, her legs at all. And if you saw her, you would see her as quote unquote profoundly disabled. But she has made herself, she lives on her own and she requires full-time nursing and is on a ventilator.
Oh my goodness.
Her own.
I do have a question here for this. I'm curious, both of you are trainers. I'm a trainer as well. What accommodations do we make in our material for those, you know, environments, those sensory accommodations, visuals, those kinds of things? What are some things that we can do to help sort of include that diversity in our trainings, or what have you already done?
Oh,
That's, I think, a great question. And some of it I would say is like, I don't know that we can accommodate everybody, and some of it's just asking people. So I just did a training, and one of the feedback I got from somebody was like, my neurodivergence had trouble with how much you put on a page of a slide, but my neurodivergence needs to see everything on the slide so I don't forget.
Yes.
So it was like, you know, it's a balance. I think people need to be off camera sometimes. That's an easy one if you're doing an online one. I think, you know, just naming that people might need to take a break, that their sensory overload, like the conference was sort of a sensory nightmare for those of us that had, like, I mean, and I skipped all the morning sessions because I was like, I can't go 8 hours with all of this stuff going on.
Right.
You know, so I think like asking people, making sure, like I frantically had forgotten at the conference. I'm like, I didn't put closed captioning in. You know, I added that at the last minute. But I think, I don't know that we can hit everyone, but I think naming it and saying ahead of time, do you need anything? Like Christine and I have been working on a list for our clients. Like, do you need, like, we have a whole list of like, do you need to be off camera? Do you need to not make eye contact? Do you need, you know, a whole list of things? And I think it's probably worth us sending something like that out when we do trainings too.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, I certainly send something that says if you need an accommodation, but I think, you know, you just also want to normalize it, because
that's what
you know, especially those of us who
I want
people at birth.
I want people that come to my trainings to be like, yes, if you need this, you know, let us know in advance. And just, I think you're saying something really important there, because I don't, you know, my sessions at the conference were what, 300 people. So there's, you know, your sessions too. And so just really kind of letting them know this is the material I need so I can hit all my points. And I'm kind of like that too. And so it's kind of, how do we kind of balance that? And
knowing that a lot of my audience when I spoke was neurodivergent and they're on their phones the whole time, and knowing that that doesn't mean that they're not paying attention.
That's how I take notes.
Or they sat in the back so that they could walk around.
Yeah.
You know, having the space to do that and not be judging that. Like, I'm always like, I sit in the back, I sit on the aisle. Like,
yeah, sit on the aisle. I did that. Yeah.
I made it space next to myself. I told people, you can't sit here. I can't have someone sitting next to me. I can't.
Oh my gosh. Yes. I
can't handle the emotion I feel from you. I can literally feel other people's energy and emotion and how they're feeling about something. And that would distract me so much. I wouldn't even be able to watch the presentation.
Same, right?
Little things like that, like understanding our own needs. But it is, look at Paula. You know, I went in tears, like, this is dumb. I wasted $1,500 to come to this training and I don't even think it makes sense. And she immediately was warm and welcoming and said, oh, I get it. Oh, I get it. I see what you're seeing. I see exactly what you're going through. Here's what I'm going to do. And she handed me off to one of her trainers who had a specialty in brain injury, who understood neurodivergence. And he was immediate to like jump in, and seeing him at the convention was so amazing. We gave each other this huge hug and hug for like 10 minutes because it was just like minds meeting up. And so when you create those trainings, I allow questions throughout. You don't have to wait to ask a question because I wouldn't remember. I interrupt people. So I need that. And so I let my attendees, they can interrupt me. And whoever's running it, I just tell them, interrupt me. Don't even wait. They're going to want to know now. I'm not saying it correctly, or I'm not saying it in a way they're understanding, or they're not auditory learners, or I speak so fast. They need me to slow down. Tell me to slow down. Critique me.
I had a trainer when I was very new, sort of in the CIT certified, I can't remember if it's a basic or the certified realm of the hours. And I had to interrupt the consultant or whatever to say, hey, I need to know more about that or I'm going to forget. And there was public shame of, it's like people that interrupt the presenters aren't necessarily learning correctly. It was the idea. It was like, oh my goodness, like, oh, so that set the platform for me to do what I do at Rewired 360, building community. It's here for all of the things. If you don't want to do all the things, that's okay, but you can have a pathway. And so I think really sort of that set me up to be like, oh yeah, let's not do that. And so I've learned more from like what not to do in those areas. I want to hear, and I want to get to this. Tell me about the book. What can we expect? What are the topics? Let's get right into it.
Well, yeah, I just wanted to piggyback on that. It's like
okay,
when we did the presentation at the conference, I had Christine working the floor for me so that we were interactive. And somebody later said, I so appreciated the dialogue. It allowed me to process in the session.
Okay. So what does working the floor mean? What did that look like?
She was like Oprah, like, come here. You got a question. You got a question.
Oh,
so instead of that mic up front where everybody feels intimidated, you're not going to go run up to a mic. That's not happening. You put that mic in front of your face, right? You want somebody to feel welcomed into the conversation. And what I really appreciated, if Kathy knew it was a topic I was passionate about and knew a ton on, instead of being, oh, I'm the expert in the room, which frequently happens at these things.
Right.
Names, but that happens a lot. We're not like that. We know there's experts everywhere.
Right.
So Christine knows way more about teens. I only work with adults. I'm going to defer to her on that question.
Right.
And recognizing who in the room had the specialty that could speak to something they did every day rather than trying to fake it like, oh, I know. And I think that's got to change in our environment too. We got to start looking at people as everybody's got some expertise.
I love that. Yeah, I love, and also too, like just talking about neurodiversity in that environment, it switches up the media, right? We're not just listening to a talking head, we're getting interaction, we're getting all of these ideas. We maybe feel like we have something to contribute. So yes, like, I'm a big community builder. I was a community organizer when I went my master's degree. And so it's like, I love community. And so I think what that's saying is so important. And
a few people shared some intensely personal, amazing things that were just like so touching.
It was the most incredible session, I swear.
Yeah, I mean, and if we didn't allow the space for that, then it wouldn't have happened. And, the people that had different lived experience from me. And I also tried to bring in different lived experience for me because I am white. I am like gender diverse, but I haven't done anything medically. I am, ADHD, but not autistic. So trying to bring in voices of color via video and stuff like that, like bringing, different voices in, because I believe, I think a lot of the neurodiversity affirming, paradigm is also the way I've always tried to work, which is the client is the expert of them. I am here to help guide them, but they are the expert of them. I am not the expert of them. And, really doing a very collaborative approach. So that's how I train, and that's how I am in the room. And I know it's the same for Christine.
Yeah, that's why we get along. We work exactly the same. Like
that's we're so good.
The same and different, but
and we have different things that we love to work on. But I think our style is that way, is very warm, engaging, and we're collaborators. We are not experts.
I'm a collaborator. Yeah.
And I'll say I have a specialty in something. I will never say I'm an expert in something.
Yeah, me either.
Ever. Even if I have lived experience, because I am white, I am privileged, I am cis. I might be queer, but I'm not a lesbian. I might be, I have all these identities that are different, but I don't have every identity. And honestly, just being autistic, even with low needs, someone who is autistic with low needs might have different needs. And so, yeah, to expect that we're all going to know everything, or that we're
One of
the
my
experts.
missions at Rewired 360 is to improve the communities of color, the Black, Indigenous people of color.
Yes,
As I went
desperate
to
needs.
this community, there was a small group of, I'm specifically focused on people that are African American descent. And so I've always had a passion for that. And so I want to be able to kind of build that community within sort of the population that we're at as far as consultants and certification. And so just really recognizing them as well as a part of the mission, right? Because there is all of these stigmas and identities to getting services to
Yes.
specifically people of color. And so if I can help, maybe get a consultant that can help kind of bring that the EMDR to that population and sort of normalize it and kind of break down some of those barriers is super important. So you guys are
Well,
just so good.
yeah. And I think as white people, like, I tried to really name that in the room. And then, people gave other feedback. Like somebody's like, oh, you forgot languages, like different people that are, English isn't their first language as a barrier. And I was like, you're right. I did. And thank you for sharing that with me. Like, I think a lot of times, as white people, we could be a little defensive. And I've worked really, I think we all have to do our own anti-racism work, but kind of being like, okay, I want to take the feedback and I want to help. Like my goal has always been to help people from marginalized communities be consultants and take the next step, because there's too many people that look the same way.
Yes.
And even at the conference, there was a lot of that.
Yeah.
Right.
And that was what's great about Kathy's breakout, I thought, was we did have people of indigenous cultures in the room speaking for that population and even saying, I'm indigenous to this part of the world. And like, again, understanding the nuances. And I go to a lot of trainings where the understanding of the nuances isn't met. And so now I'm only drawn, and I thankfully started with Paula Marcucci because she is that. She is always looking at all of the things. And so that's
so
our
good.
too. And, to intro our book, I think one of our biggest challenges, so the name of the book is Neurodivergent Paths to Healing, using affirming EMDR and parts work with autistic and ADHD clients. And one of our biggest challenges as we're writing it is, oh my God, we have to include this. We have to include this population. We have to make sure we're being sensitive to this population. Wait, now we're diving into DID. We have to go into the neurodiversity affirming lens of DID. Like it's not pathological. Like, and we start this like panic attack a little bit of our blinders. Where are our blinders? What are we missing? What are we not doing? What are we not covering? Who are we not covering? Who are we not acknowledging? Okay, we have to acknowledge the experience of profound, need. Okay, we have to make sure we acknowledge like that this isn't pathological for this population.
So and have an accessible, easy to read book that's not 1,000 pages.
Exactly. And make it not technical. We want it to be grassroots. Like we're drawn to like Robin Shapiro's work, that, easy ego states. You jump in that and immediately like boom, boom, boom. Jim Knight's work. You jump in and you're like, there's a tool. Awesome. Go, there we go. So we have that affinity to that type of work because that's what we use in our work. And I don't want to keep the floor on it because both of us are so excited about the book that I think so. Chime in a little bit about your experience too with it, because we're having so much fun.
Yeah, I mean, I think the big thing that makes this book different too is, and this is something I felt really strongly about, was there had to be parts work in it. Like since I did my certification and stuff with Colleen West, who's really big in IFS world, and that's kind of how I brought it in. Although I have always been kind of pulling from the different parts models. I won't say like I use some IFS language, but IFS doesn't believe in like preparation. They think you can kind of just dive in. So structural dissociation model is more like you have to prepare a client.
Right.
To me, that seems like
I've been thinking that, but I didn't know how to say it. So thank you. Yeah.
Like that's, So, and part of the way we prepare clients is through the parts work. So we're really, I think we've got about 6 chapters in because we had to do the 2. So I think the other thing that makes a difference is the specialty chapters, and Christine's doing a lot of those. PDA, rejection sensitivity dysphoria, which is also something we both identify with, caregivers. We've just added another chapter on late diagnosis because that's my particular passion of this week. And then
well, even plurality, that was the other thing. It was like, wait, recognizing DID is one form of plurality, but neurodivergent people also exist and an endiogenic form of plurality, which is just a natural state of organizing their minds in and who they are as human beings into individual systems. I mean, so there we have a lot, a
We
lot of
have
really
to,
cool
right?
stuff
We have to
going on. Yeah,
organize, have some kind of organization, or it's just too overwhelming.
yeah, and
Yeah.
but
So, I mean,
it's good. It's been fun.
yeah, I mean, so, we're kind of starting with some of the basics, like here's the definitions, here's the of as of when we're writing it in 2025, right? Because some of the words are going to change.
Right.
You know, here I'm writing a chapter right now on here's the ways that people might show up in your office that you're not immediately thinking that they're neurodivergent. Or, I mean, now I am. Now I'm like, oh, wow, most of my clients are neurodivergent. How did that happen? Like, we find each other for sure.
Yeah.
You know, and then I had said to Christine after a session last week, I'm like, one of my clients is really curious about this plurality thing. And she's like, yes, I have to do a deeper dive in my chapter. So she just did a chapter on the frameworks, the different parts frameworks. I'm going to do one on parts work 101, and she's going to do one on neurodivergent specific parts work. And then we're going to go through the 8 stages, and then we're going to go into the specialty stuff. And then we're going to have common questions at the end. But we're also trying to make it really accessible because a lot of us tend to buy all these books and then
for sure.
they don't get read.
Well, I want to talk to you about just as a reader and an audience member, you mentioned Robin Shapiro's work. I can just pick that book up and use it. And so the utility is so important, I think, as just as a consultant. If you create something that we can just say, hey, pick this up, here's some tips, tools, tricks, and I can go right to the chapter and say, hey, look at this. I think that's going to be super cool. It has to be utilitarian. I don't think, for me, I like the theory, but I also think it's something that we can utilize, like as a clinician. So I've been doing grief and loss targets. And so we're talking about, okay, end of life, traumatic death, grief, loss, and mourning on all of these areas. It's like, let's give you specific tools for each of these things that you can just go to. So I'm super excited for the book. I want you to let us know when it's going to go live. We'll put it on our channels. We'll put it out for you. Let all the people kind of know about it. I think it's going to be amazing. What's been sort of the best part of the process for you guys? I know collaboration and the idea, funnel, but what's been sort of maybe fun and surprising to you?
I didn't know I loved writing. It's ironic. I mean, I majored in writing in college. I was going to be a journalist. You think I would have done something like this before 55? But I did, I really in this process, my writing skills, because we have an editor. I mean, Jamie's just, I have no words. Like, I'm speechless. She's so good, and she really helps us reframe our writing. But I was shocked how much I love the process of it and how much I love the collaboration of that process. I don't think I would enjoy it as much if I didn't have a co-author. Like, I think Kathy is what makes it incredibly fun. We wake up every morning excited and like, oh my God, go into my chapter, look at this. And then we, leave each other notes. And then, so it's just this rich process of learning. And I'm learning so much because I love that research so much that I feel just energized in my private practice. Like, every day is a new excitement because I'm like, oh, I know, like when a client came out as a plural last week, I was like, oh, is it endiogenic or is it? And they were like, you know about that? I mean, they burst into tears. They were like, so excited. And actually, I got permission to share this because I said, this is going to come up because we might have to use this in the book, this story. And they were so excited. Like, I want to be in the book. I'll sign off. No problem. No problem. I'm so stoked. Yes. And it was so cute. Like, they were just overwhelmed with emotion that I knew what they were talking about.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have 3 weeks ago. I just really did a deep dive into that research, and I didn't know any of those terms or what it meant. And so I just think that for me.
I love the evolution that you're talking about, that we feel day after day. It's like, oh, let's go, some people call it rabbit holes, evolution, but also it's fun, right? And just ways to like document it and hone in on it. Like, here's this toolkit. I want to know, how did this kind of idea of a book come to you, and talk to me about the evolution of that for you all?
I mean, I would say it's been a long time in coming. I've been thinking about a book for several years. Christine's been very much encouraging me. We wrote an article for Camped with another co-author, and then we both put in for the diversity thing. And then, honestly, there was other people involved. It wasn't gonna, there was bumps, let's just say.
Mhm.
And I was just sort of like, so then Christine doing a Christine, and this is why we're a great pair, because, I really don't want to be around people at all most of the time. Christine gets sent a book from Norton saying, can you review this or look at this? And she's like, yeah, the book's good, but I could write a book like this. And then they were like, do you want to meet with an editor? And then we met with an editor. Huh?
No, just think how so weird it was. Like, it was just like,
yeah. And then we're like, met with the editor, and she's like, do an outline. And you can ask Christine, outlines are my superpower. Like, boom. I mean, in my house, my wife's like, it was like, once we connected with Norton, it was probably like 2 months until we got the contract. We just hyper focused. We wrote the outline, and then she's like, okay, a proposal. We wrote a proposal, which included 2 sample chapters based on our articles. Like, and we just did that all in like 2 months.
Oh my God. It's like so crazy, right? Like, I have this in me, like all of this stuff. We have the outlet, right?
And honestly, I was a little, and you could ask Christine, I was a little reluctant to do it with somebody else, because I was like, working with other people is hard and whatever. And so the most surprising thing for me is like, we work great together. Like, our brains can pick out things. I could be like, Christine, you flesh it out a little bit more. It's in your head, get it on the page. And she could be like, Kathy, you missed this. And we give each other feedback. And it's funny because we've known each other now, I don't know, 3-4 years or something. I don't, time's strange. But the conference was the first time we met in person. So we signed a contract to write a book together before we had even met in person.
So you have a colleague, Stephanie Pierce, and she's my fellow in thanatology. She's perinatal and EMDR. So it's so fun to find. I think as we're talking about consultants and certification, the fun thing is you find your people, right? And I found her, and she's grief, and we do all the things. And so what you're experiencing here is just, I want to give that hope to people. That collaboration is fun. It can be exciting. Those beliefs about, oh my gosh, working with people, those fears, you got to find the right people. I found a few wrong people.
Yep, we have to.
Okay.
Okay, for sure.
Okay, good. And so just really thinking about your beliefs about yourself, like don't let that stop you from still finding your people, finding your tribe that speak the language, because they're out there. And that's been one of my funnest things as a consultant, is connecting with people that are just of like mind. And so I think that's super amazing for both of you that you've connected and met in person and writing the book. I want to spend the last few minutes just kind of letting people know where they can find you, what your services are, websites, and then also kind of just maybe where they can find the book when it's ready.
So I'm located at Transcends, like TRA, and like the word transcends therapy.com. And I do consulting, trainings. I have 3 trainings right now on demand. I have a live training online coming up through Kathy Wine Appleton Kathy, you guys have me Kathy'd out. Katie Wine Appleton's Multiplicity of the Minds is producing that. And she did one for me in September. It was phenomenal. I mean, the people that showed up, we had somebody in their 80s who couldn't even figure out how to do the payment system, but they were all engaged and super excited to learn. And I was like, this is amazing. And so many incredible questions. So I do love training. And I'm hoping to be at EMDR next year. We're working on that. But I have to not niche up my topics so much, because I guess PDA wasn't really a topic everybody was ready to hear about. So like I can't go too far out there with the neurodivergent topics have to be a little more streamlined, but that's what I really train on. I do have a training on PDA too with NeuroPebble also. So I have a lot of trainings out there that are neurodiversity based, mostly around EMDR and adapting that process. And they're all very organic. And I do have links on Event Create that you can find on my website. So transcendstherapy.com.
And then can you put those links in our community so they can find you when we're done?
Definitely.
You can find those links in our community as well. So we can find out where all the good stuff is. We'll be making the announcements for the book, all the stuff where you can find her to consult, train, or take any of the training. So Kathy, I'm going to hand it to you.
Yeah. As I also wanted to name that Christine had started a group on Facebook,
Oh, that's great.
Neurodiversity EMDR.
Oh, that's good.
And it's a great group. You know, therapists' Facebook groups can sometimes be a little wonky,
Uh-huh.
but this is a great group. And when people come in and have questions, it's very supportive, low drama. So that's a great resource for people also. You can find most of my information, as I said before, on kathyhandel.com. I am looking to maybe start some more certification, neurodiversity, queer affirming groups. I am doing the one I did at the conference for NeuroPebble, and what else? And I'm hoping to do something also with Katie Wine Appleton on step-by-step parts work stuff, because that's sort of my other training passion. Yeah, and then, just connecting with us, once we start to get a date for the book, we will definitely kind of coming back to everybody and letting them know. We hope to present at the conference together next year. We decided that would be, we want to do it together. I mean, we sort of did it together anyway. She helped me so much, but I was the one who put in that presentation.
That's right. You had all the stress up.
I know, right?
Like having a blast.
I think one of the ideas I got from the conference is there's this idea of continuing bonds, of way that you work with the departed and continuing bonds. So I'm hoping that Stephanie will join me also in doing continuing bonds in the AIP model. And so trying to mix those together, I'm kind of like Christine. We can go down and do like really specific, but then zooming out, I think, is also helpful. So hopefully maybe we'll be co-presenters there next year. That would be so fun to meet you all. Like I probably saw you, right? But like meet and have groups.
I know, yeah. It was so many people.
Yeah. Kathy was probably in her room, but that's okay.
I want to go to your training. That topic sounds so exciting.
Oh yeah. I mean,
I think
I think we need a little bit more meat when it comes to grief work, right? A little bit more. We know grief, we know traumatic death, we know all the things, but like let's kind of work on one protocol for it. And so maybe that's my next book.
I would love to see, I mean, this came up in my presentation, and I think it's coming up in my clinical work a lot.
Yeah.
We think of grief as like kind of more death, that loss sort of stuff.
Right.
I think a lot of us, I have found a lot of clients grieving what is happening in our country in 2025, all of that stuff. And I don't really think, I mean, I talked about it a little in my presentation, but I would love, if you're going to do grief stuff, to really bring that in a little bit more. Because I think like, I mean, I know me personally, I felt like, post-election, a piece of me broke.
Yeah.
And trying to find the space to grieve that and have life and do all the things I'm doing.
Living grief, right?
Living grief. Yeah. That would be an incredible topic, because I feel like
I love this.
So much of that. I see that in my clients every day. Even when we're talking about one of our chapters on late diagnosis, a huge part of that chapter is, and I was fleshing it out today, so it's front of mind, but a huge part of it was grief. Like, acceptance. Like, I didn't have these accommodations when I went to school. I probably could have really done something different.
Oh, that's important. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I remember going to the university at Boise State and I couldn't comprehend something. I thought there's something wrong with me. What's wrong? You just need to slow down and comprehend it. I was like, oh my gosh, like those accommodations. And they were like, you're fine, you're getting good grades. I'm like, but there's something that's not clicking. And then when I figured it out, I was like, oh my gosh. So yeah, that accommodation piece is so important. I'm definitely hoping that you guys will be back to our post EMDRIA conference podcast. Will be, I think, on the 17th of October, and we'll be back. So I'd like to invite you all to that, and just all the juice on all of the different sessions there and building excitement there. Any closing remarks or things you want to leave our audience with today?
Just don't be afraid to experiment with the EMDR. Don't be afraid of disassociation. There's so much fear in our EMDRIA community that I get it. When you get a basic training, like, don't go off not knowing what you're doing. Once you understand the adaptive information processing model, once you understand the mechanism of EMDR and how it works, once you understand what disassociation is, protection, you really can adapt it to use with lots of different things. But I get so much fear in my consultants when I say, that's fine, you can do that. The relief, they're terrible.
Oh my gosh, I know.
Great people.
Yeah, their bodies just kind of relax.
Oh, their shoulders drop. It's
Yeah.
Yeah.
fine to
I
them.
mean,
Crazy.
my plug is that I feel like a lot of people think they're affirming in a lot of ways without actually having done the work from lived experience people,
Right.
especially around gender. When I was marketing my gender affirming care
Mhm.
training, I really couldn't get people to go. And I mean, I also get people are over, I want to name people are overwhelmed and stuff, but I'm like, to be culturally competent, and I'm passionate about this group, but there's all of the groups. Like, you need to have training from people with lived experience, and recognize it. You're not competent because you have a trans friend or you think people should have
Of
civil
course.
rights.
Oh my gosh.
And the same with neurodivergence. Like, take some basic trainings to know what to look for and pull yourself out of the stereotypes that a lot of us have bought into, and challenge that a little bit more. Because I mean, the more we talk about this, like, you're like, oh yeah, I have ADHD, and it's like, there's a lot of us.
There's
I don't
so
care what
many.
they say. What RFK says, there's a lot of us doing a lot of
Yeah.
really good work,
Yes.
Yeah.
and out there.
Uh-huh.
So that's my plug.
Good. Well, I appreciate you all. I'm so excited to connect and to be continuing, hopefully professionally working on things together and igniting our passion. So I appreciate you. I honor the work that you're doing. I see you. I recognize you. I'm excited for you. And we will see you next time. So Kathy on the Couch, your EMDR therapist and consultant in Twin Falls, Idaho. You can find me at rewired360.com. We also have our podcast on our website. And then join our community and free resource library. We have our grief and loss trainings coming up. We also have documentation and an EMDR refresher course throughout the year. So check out our trainings. We'll see you next time. Take care.